I had
Absolute
flu.
scam.
I had flu last week, and I think I've ever been that ill in my entire life. Like genuinely, if I was, it was like when I was a child, and it was just like fever dream levels of bad.
At least Brighton have made us feel better, though.
Yeah, superb. I watched us on that Thursday, like truly wondering if it was better off to just have the fever step up a notch, and I just didn't have to think about Fulham anymore.
I saw someone tweet out something yesterday, right? Something along the lines of, it's not all bad, because at some point the sweet embrace of death will come for us all. And that is sort of how I feel about our last few games.
Yeah, it's I saw someone else say that it's not all bad, at least we're not Southampton. And like, well, I mean, we almost lost to them 3 weeks ago, so I know we're not them, but you know, we're not performing super well either. So episode 272. Apologies for the break, everybody. Robin is on vacation, and everybody else got sick. So we have not been able to record last week to cover Fulham and Leicester. And we're now here to chat about both of those a little bit, and Palace, and really just package the whole shit sandwich into one podcast with just Adam and I.
Well, hold on. A shit sandwich is meant to be shit in the middle with good either side. This is just, isn't this? This is just a turd.
So I was thinking, yeah, it's just two poos with like a slice of bread in the middle, which was the 2-2 draw, which actually is pooey bread because it was 2-0 up and we
yeah, exactly. It's just a lot of turd.
Yeah, overall not great. We went into this period, and it's going to be tough covering all three at once. You know how chaotic this podcast can be, let alone with us two left to run it, and 3 of these games to go over. So Doom in the chat immediately in here with we gave Diego Gomez a horrible first impression. Yeah, we did. He's wondering what on earth he's got himself into after coming from sunny Miami to cloudy Brighton and watching that mess of a performance. When we came into this run of games, Adam, it was actually you who said that this was a really nice run of games coming up. After
I actually remembered that. Yeah.
We've taken 2 points from a possible 12 at home to Southampton, away to Fulham, away to Leicester, and at home to Crystal Palace. How many points were you genuinely expecting or hoping to get from those 4 games? Like prior to, no, try to eliminate hindsight. Like
10 points.
Those 4. Okay.
10 points, and I would have been okay with 8. And we got 2.
Yep. I was more on the bandwagon of 10 as well. I just can't see a way. Like with the Fulham game, it's just always like Fulham are like the bogey team. Like their record is absolutely horrendous. Like a draw away at them would have been a good result. And to me, like Southampton at home, Leicester away, Palace at home, like you simply have to win those games. Like that's just games that you should be winning.
Well, should we address the elephant in the room? In the after this run of games, there's been chaos on the internet. We've already got the fan bases. There's infighting already. Doesn't take much for everyone to kick off.
No, it doesn't.
Because you've got people on the Herzl out train already, right? Then you've got people on the other side saying the people that Herzl are out are idiots. You've then got the other group, the classic grouping of, don't you know where we came from? No matter what happens now, it's great because X number of years ago we were playing in such shit ground, which is always helpful to the discussion. It's tricky, right? Because a couple of weeks ago, we were a win away from going, was it second?
It was, yeah.
Not that long ago, really not that long ago. So you can see the stance of the people that come out and say the people saying Herzl needs to go are absolutely foolish, because you look at that and you go, well, come on, like we're Brighton and we could have gone second with a slightly different outcome in a game. This is nonsense. However, we faced, correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But is it 4 managers that have now been fired from their clubs this season? Because you had Eric Ten Hag.
Yep.
Right. You had Cooper. You had now had.
No, we played Van Nistelrooy.
No, but I'm saying the clubs in general that have had managers.
Oh, okay.
Fired.
Yes. Yeah.
Cooper, Ten Hag, now O'Neill, now Russell Martin.
Yep.
And out of all of those, we've only managed to beat Man United. So we've played 4 clubs that have been so piss poor. They've sacked their managers before Christmas, and we couldn't beat any of them. This is Southampton, who have minus 25 goal difference and 1 win. This is Wolverhampton Wanderers, who have minus 16 goal difference and 2 wins. They've conceded 40 goals. These are abject poverty teams. And we've gone on a run of games here where we couldn't beat Southampton at home, and we were fortunate actually to walk away with that. Fulham schooled us. We capitulated completely against Leicester in the same manner which we did against Wolves, so we learned nothing from it. And the closest thing we've got to a rivalry, we got outplayed at home again. So then you look at the people that are saying Herzl are out, and you go, well, yeah, you've got a point, because that is unacceptable for this club. That's unacceptable. It doesn't matter where we came from, what we've done. You spent 200 million in the summer, and you brought in a guy who's done that. That's fairly unforgivable to some subsets of the fan base. I know I'm on a pedestal here. I will shut up in a second. But a lot of people have come out and said it would be really unlike the hierarchy at the club to make a knee-jerk decision on a manager after something like this. Because I think I tweeted something to the effect of, I'm still on board with Herzl, but I think the West Ham game is going to be really important. I think if we lose to West Ham, I think there's going to be some really big questions. And even if you don't look at West Ham, I think if you look at Brentford, if we get beaten like handily by Brentford, Bloom's not going to look nicely at that, given the beef that exists there between the owners. And then you go into that January transfer window that will be important after the next couple of games or next few games. And you start to say, well, hold on, do we have the right guy at the helm? And people have basically said, the club don't make those quick decisions. They give managers time. Look at Potter, X, Y, and Z. Sure. But Potter was poached from another club. Potter had a couple of years of track record. I can't remember the exact amount of time that he spent with us at this point, where he built up a lot of goodwill. And he famously got on really well with the rest of the club. Herzl is a guy that we brought in from Bundesliga 2 that has coached for a year and a half prior to this job. This was a gamble. This was a risk. So they don't really owe him anything. The idea behind this is this guy an innovative thinker? Can we bring him in, and can he do something novel in the Premier League? What we don't know at this point is, are the last 4 games representative of Herzl, or is this a slump? Or are we fraudulent? Is Herzl fraudulent? Is the games that we won earlier in the season, some of which are fairly questionable wins where we got off luckily, but at the same time, we were in a great position in the table. Can't take that away from him. Is that the real Herzl, or was that luck? That's the question.
Well, I mean, I think the scary problem is for a lot of fans, and like we've said this almost all season, that like 2 things. One, like we've not looked really good any game yet this season. That's a problem, right? Like we haven't played for 90 minutes of football and looked superb at all this season. Not once.
No.
Not even against Crawley. Like we didn't look great. Like there was 2 or 3 times there where they carved us apart. Like we've not looked great against any team. Like
Everton, maybe, but they were down to 10 men.
Yeah, they went down to 10 men, and that first half we could have been 2 down with that Van Heck misplaced pass, the Weaver misplaced pass, and the Milner misplaced pass. We were very, very lucky to go in at halftime 0-0 or 1-0 or whatever it was, and then obviously the red card happened, and Everton absolutely collapsed, right? Like, and
Yeah.
they went on a horrible run after that for a few. Like, they had a really bad run, like after that. And Deitch, being Deitch, has done it again, right? Like, he's dragged them back out from this slump and has got them moving again. That's really a question we need to look at Hertzler now. The same sort of thing. Can he do it? And the second question or problem or whatever, like point, is that something I said on Twitter from the podcast account, is that we do not know who Fabian Hertzler is. You just said it. Is the last four representative? Are the first four representative? Are the middle group in? Like, what is Fabian Hertzler? Because when we spoke with Uwe Hunemeyer, right? Like, professional footballer, Bundesliga 2 coach. He knows his stuff inside and out of the division that Hertzler came from, and he knows his stuff in the Premier League, like, by God, right? Like, he's played more games there than anyone listening to this will have ever played at any level close to where he is.
Now, you don't know who listens to this.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to say that there's a good chance that the majority of listeners have not played at the level Hunemeyer has played at. So we've got to give him extra weight, right? Like, when he's coming on here and talking about what he feels a Hertzler team looks like. And he everything he told us about what to expect from a Hertzler team hasn't happened. None of it. We are not good at scoring from set pieces. We are not good at defending from set pieces. We are not defensively sound. We don't play three at the back. We don't play a hybridized centre back. And we don't score a ton of goals with, like, crazy amount of attackers in the box. Like, we don't do any of the things that Hunemeyer said. So it shows that he doesn't, like, who does Hertzler know who he is? Like, because right now it feels like he is De Zerbi light, in that he has taken over this team and he doesn't want to rock the boat too much. It feels very reminiscent, for those slightly older listeners, of Oscar Garcia inheriting Gus Poyet's side. It's the same team with the same style with less teeth. And we don't know what this team does. Like, it's not coached well. Like, it just isn't coached well. Like, that's a sad fact of what we're looking at. And it wasn't coached well towards the end of De Zerbi's tenure either. This last calendar year has been shit, right? Like, it's been crap. Like, there's been some great results littered in amongst them, but this last calendar year has been horrible. Like,
what do you say to people that are like, well, hold on, we've been in 4th and 5th position this year, going up until three weeks ago. It's been great.
We got a last minute goal against Manchester United. We scammed a draw against Arsenal because they went down to 10 men. We were lucky to get a point at home to Ipswich. We did not do enough to beat Forest at home. We were almost like a national laughingstock, right, after Chelsea, because it was the most insane thing people had ever seen.
Newcastle, we really didn't deserve 3 points in that game.
It was an ugly game of football from both of them. Yeah. Spurs are Spurs at the end of the day. Like, they are not a normal football team. Like, I'm sorry. They're just
absolute pure chaos.
Yeah. Wolves, we dropped a 2-goal lead to lose. Liverpool, we
lose or draw?
To draw. Sorry, Liverpool, we were tactically outclassed on substitutions, and were essentially beaten with in-game management. Man City, we're all looking at what an absolute disaster is going on over there. Like, right, we've got Pep self-harming at this point. Like, we're in, like, they are. We shouldn't laugh, but, like, there's something really, really wrong there, right? Like, really wrong. Like, I don't think that any team out of the 10 that have beaten them in their last 11 games can look at that and go, that was a fluke. There's something seriously wrong with Manchester City.
Yeah, their mental is just, it's kaput.
Yeah, it's a mess. Bournemouth, good result. Fair, good result. And then Southampton, we were lucky to get a draw at home to Southampton. Let's be honest. We were one lucky VAR call away from losing that game. Like, we were very lucky, because there are plenty of other VARs that would have given that goal and we wouldn't have won or drew. We just took nothing. We were handily dismantled away at Fulham. We were embarrassed tactically in game by Ruud van Nistelrooy in his second game of Premier League football. We're talking about inexperienced manager, give him time. He knows like he's got to learn. That was Ruud van Nistelrooy's second real game of football management in the Premier League with a struggling side at home. And he outmaneuvered Hertzler in the space of about 15 minutes at the end to go from 2-0 down to 2-2. And then Palace come visiting. And again, we were just outclassed tactically by Glasner. Out everywhere, all over. Like, we did nothing. Like, he knew exactly how we were going to play.
You were there? You did the big old long journey to go?
And it looked a bit like we did nothing. Like, we played, and even in the second half, like, we got that 15 minutes of excellent football, right? Like, we put pressure on, we looked great, we attacked them, we did really well, and they made 2 subs. They made 2 substitutions, and it derailed our entire game plan. And one of those was Eddie Nketiah, by the way, who is dog, like awful. Like, he has got to be one of the worst signings of the season all round.
That chip that he tried. Ugh.
But it was enough for us to not be able to answer the like. We literally fell apart due to those 2 substitutions. Like, the tiniest tinkering change, and we had no answers for it. Like, I've just gone through almost every result this season, and there are things hanging over each and every one of them where you're like, whew. The only one that isn't is Bournemouth's win. Like, that was an excellent performance, an ugly away win where we really grit our teeth and ground out a result and deserved to take that away with the mentality we had. No, there's not another single game this season where you go, great win, deserved, like, because we were excellent. Like, there's nothing. Like, because Newcastle was dog from both of us, right? Like, awful. Yeah. And honestly, they could have scored 4 if it wasn't for Verbruggen. Like, it was terrible. Like, Isak should have had a hat-trick, I think, at one point. It was so bad. Yeah. So, we don't know who, like, if this is what Hertzler is, like, it's poor. It's a poorly coached team from top to bottom. They can't defend set pieces. They can't score from them. They can't defend leads. They can't mount comebacks. They can't score goals convincingly from anywhere. They certainly can't defend anywhere convincingly. Our home record is average because people even saying, well, this is our first home game we lost all season. We were still 11th in the home table because we were drawing loads. It's like, yeah, we're unbeaten, but like points at 1 point at home per game is not great. So like, what is it that he is bringing to the table right now? I don't know. I really don't. And I'm not even in the Hertzler out brigade. I'm in the who the hell is Fabian Hertzler and like what does he stand for? Because right now, like, and I want to see it. And I don't think Hertzler's going anywhere until the end of the season. We're not going to get relegated, probably, right? Like, we're not even that far away from safety right now. Let's be honest. Like, 38 points is going to be enough every year, and we're already on 24, right? Like, we're going to easily make 14 more points this season. It's not a concern.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I don't see Bloom pulling the trigger until the end of the year. But this is Hertzler's entire career on the line for me. Like, I don't know who you are or what you're supposed to be, but like, you better figure it out and like show some big balls, as De Zerbi used to say, right? Like, and do something and like show who you are and start implementing this stuff, because like, this is nothing like what it was like at St. Pauli. None of these things mesh together. So like, was he just lucky? Like, did he just walk in and get lucky? Were the staff surrounding him the brains behind the operation, right? Like, we've seen that mentioned once or twice when he was first appointed, that the assistant manager that didn't come with him was actually one of the smarter people in his operation. Like, I don't know. Like, but I can understand why people are Hertzler out. I can understand why people definitely ain't. And like, I just feel massive amounts of frustration at not knowing who or what this manager is and what he stands for, because right now I don't see it. Like, the only thing we know from articles is that he doesn't believe in positions. Well, he does, because we're playing a 4-2-3-1 every single game and we're being caught out the same way every single game. So that's the positions, right? Like, everyone knows where our players are going to be and they know how to counter it. So like, that's wrong.
Yeah. and he got off to such a hot start with St. Pauli, and he got off to a hot start with us, right? I know you've dismantled some of those results there, but some of that just comes down to the cliche of that's football, and that's how it goes. Sometimes you scam some wins, and ultimately it's what the scoreboard looks like at the end of it. I'm confused, as you say, to this guy was brought in, and one of the big things was, no positions. You kind of cuts out the midfield. You get heavy defense, heavy attack. He's not going to be as gung-ho as De Zerbi, and he's going to be more defensively solid. We've looked way worse defensively than under De Zerbi. Way worse. Now, I guess this brings us on to the conversation that we sort of need to have, that no one really wants to have, with this sort of idea of taking Lewis Dunk out the back and shooting him, that no one wants to do.
No casual, like, is it time to think about dropping Dunk? No. Let's pop a cap in him.
Let's yes, we got to old yellow him. No one's going to get that reference. He played 3/5 at the back, right, for St. Pauli, and we were saying, when is he going to crack that out? And he did against Fulham. That was the only time really we sort of seen a departure from the 4-2-3-1, and it was fairly tragic. Having said that, we statistically outplayed them in the first half. And then when it comes down to XG, we had over double their XG, 13 shots to their 6, 3 big chances to their 1, way more passes and possession. So technically, despite losing 3-1 fairly comfortably for Fulham, you can argue that there were some signs of positivity in that. What we did see in that was Verbruggen passing the ball out to a Fulham attacker. I think it ended up, what was Iwobi that scored, right?
Yeah.
We also saw Lewis Dunk be targeted even as the central member of that back three with balls over the top. Now, we saw that again with Crystal Palace, whereby his legs are just simply not allowing him to play at the pace of the game which Hertzler is employing. And if there's one thing we can tell from Hertzler, like, what is Hertzler? He's playing a high line. When you're in possession, you're playing a high line and you're trying to overload the other half of the pitch. This is the same Lewis Dunk that was, in the defensive lineup against Chelsea in that game, where no one looked good. The focus was on Adam Webster, but no one in that defensive line got away without blame. And we blamed the tactics. We blamed Adam Webster. Since Dunk has come back from this injury, and even slightly prior to it, there's been some question marks over it. We also had a bit of a purple patch under Igor and Van Hecke being the defensive pairing. Obviously, Igor's come in and made mistakes. What is going on here? Like, is this Lewis Dunk is still carrying a bit of his injury and is not back at 100%? Or is this, we've seen Lewis Dunk decline over the last few months, and maybe this is, he needs to go and move to a team, hate to say it again, that sits back a little bit more and does not play on the halfway line because he does not have the pace to then run back? Is it a combination of both of those things? Is it a dip in form? Like, what is it that is causing this problem? Because we look shocking defensively. And by the way, I don't think Igor and Van Hecke is necessarily the answer either. I don't think the club is particularly impressed with Igor. Like, what is it?
It's not been a few months though, has it? Because we talked about it in European games last season, that he was the one who stood out as the slowest player on the pitch in our defensive half. Like, and that's crap to say, but like, we talked about this at Rome, like how exposed he looked, right? Like, we saw it, like, we watched it, like, he looked utterly outclassed from minute 1 to minute 90. So like, that was what, February, March, like, I don't know, like, could have been even before that, like, I don't know, whenever it was, like,
yeah,
we, like, this has been like almost a year-long conversation of whisperings around what he is and isn't able to do anymore. And I think that if he was playing in a Potter side or a Houghton side, I don't think it's even mentioned at this point. I think
Houghton side, he's going to be superb.
I think defensively, like, I think he's excellent. Like, he can still read the game, he can do everything he needs to do. But, like, to me, he's been bailed out by Van Heck quite a few times already this season. And when we did employ that back three, despite the fact that I thought Van Heck had a really poor game against Palace, by the way, and I thought Igor obviously had a colossal failure against Leicester that essentially was put, like, surprised to not see death threats and hatred against Igor though after Leicester when he was absolutely culpable for that one goal and Weaver was like crucified.
Well, because Igor's going to come around their house and smash in the door and slap them in half.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Maybe they don't want to rile up the beast. I don't know, but like he was bailed out by Igor particularly several times in the Fulham game because they came down that way, like that side of the pitch, a few more times, and he has been bailed out by Van Heck quite a few times already. And what he used to offer when he would struggle at times against games, right? Like against your Mitrovic's, right? Like Dunk's biggest kryptonite was those like massively mobile dudes, like Haaland, Mitrovic, like Tammy Abraham, like all levels of football. Like it's just been his kryptonite. It just is. And like every player has it, right? Like it's not like, oh, he's terrible because of it. It's just like we know what it is. So we try and make sure everybody can cover that. Like he always used to pop up with 3 to 5 goals a season. He ain't doing that anymore. He always used to pop up with 3 or 4 unbelievable assists. Well, if he messes one of those passes up, he's now so effed, pace-wise, that he can't get back, and it's going to cost. Like it's more just as likely to cost us as it is to help us, right? Like, we have spent £200 million on footballers this summer, and we did not hear so much of a whisper about a centre half coming in until about 10 days before the deadline ended with that Boskagli fella.
Boskagli from,
And Hummels. Well, he ain't going to have been any quicker, is he? So it's like the questions has to be asked to Tony Bloom too, frankly. Right? Like when you were doing your recruitment in the summer and we brought in Hertzler when we did, like early enough to know what he wanted to do. What were the discussions had between you two on this style of play? Because whatever it was, there's clearly been a miscommunication or a misunderstanding somewhere, because the style of play doesn't match what we did in the summer for recruitment. So like, what happened there? Like, where were lines missed at? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, where were the lines twisted that we didn't hear this somewhere? Like, I don't know, but like somewhere along the line, something went wrong there because we had all this money, we spent it all, and like we're starting Minte again, who has been poor all season and left Gruder on the bench, who every time he's came on has looked good. Like, why aren't we starting him then? Like, let's see what he does.
Is the biggest catfish I've ever seen in my life. This guy starts off the season. Looks like an absolute world beater, and genuinely now when I watch him in games, and now let's give him his credit. He did take that goal. Who did he score against fairly recently? It looked like he'd overplayed it.
It was Leicester,
right? It looked like he'd overplayed it, but he ended up finishing it fairly well. Outside of that, he genuinely looks like the ball is a fairly like new concept to him. Like the amount of mistakes, he's trying to beat the left back on pace always. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about with the team at the moment, and I think some of it is just you've got a lot of players just are in bits of like bad form patches. Whether it's because they're not feeling the tactics, whether it's through injuries. Still, we've had really bad luck with injuries at the first half of the season. Going back to your point about defenders, I don't think a deal came to them properly with one of the defenders. I think it's probably as simple as that. And I'm assuming it's David Weir and Paul Barber that is predominantly the ones that are tasked with doing this. I think they probably looked at this and went, all right, we create the squads regardless of the manager. Someone's going to come in and work with the players that we have. Like we only have 2 top quality centre backs. Well, they're going to play with 4 at the back. That's just kind of how it works. I think they thought Dunk is set and Van Hecker is set. And then we've got capable backups in Igor and Adam Webster. I don't think what they necessarily expected, and maybe they did, by the way, and this is why they tried to, at the end, like, God, we need to get the centre back in. Maybe they didn't see the fall off in some of those individuals as much as they have fallen off, because Van Heck has been outstanding. Let's be honest. I think Van Heck is going to be one of the most, premier blue chip defenders for years to come in any football league. He's still young, still learning his trade. Let's be honest. He's still a work in progress. Igor's been this player. He's a guy that is very capable, solid in certain areas, and then he'll do stupid stuff. We've seen that. So we've seen that a lot. Like, this isn't
the Brazilian in him.
It's the Brazilian in him. It's like, oh yeah, I got an amazing run in the 89. What are you doing? And then look, we know the situation, unfortunately, with Adam Webster, and now we're seeing this with Lewis Dunk. I think if the Bossagli thing did work out, I think they would have brought him in 100% if they could have just made a deal work. And I think Igor would have probably then left. Sometimes those deals just don't happen. So I'm not going to judge them incredibly harshly there. They worked on a ton of deals. I tell you what, though, I would be stunned if they don't bring in a centre back in January. Absolutely stunned. Because what do we do? This one more injury, and we're really struggling there. Because if he had a few more capable centre backs, I wouldn't be shocked if Hertzler did end up just switching to that three back system on the regular. But I tell you what, I think the other thing that has really unsettled Dunk, Estupinian's been in a weird place lately. I saw someone put something out on social about him that I don't know why it stuck with me, but it's like, why does he always look like he's playing football on ice skates? And every time he passes it looks like he's doing some flare pass. Just pass the ball normally. He's been in a weird spot, and he's never been a particularly excellent defender, right? He's been perfect, like going up, being an engine on that left-hand side and making things work. The right back position is obviously in a bad place. Without Veltman, we look horrendous. Kadioglu's been injured. We don't even know where Kadioglu is meant to even be playing at this particular point, because when he was fit, he was playing right wing mostly. Lamptey brings us a lot going forward. Defensively, he is an absolute abomination. Did you see him jump against Palace?
Yeah.
What was he jumping? Where was he jumping to? He missed the flight of the ball by about 4 yards.
Yeah.
And then we ball watched the cross in.
Which is not the first time this season, right? Like, we've had some shocking defending from crosses all year. Like, that was something we were told would be rapidly improved under Hertzler compared to De Zerbi. Because I remember watching Endgame De Zerbi last season, and like the defending from crosses was shocking. And we talked about it all the time. And we were encouraged and enthused that this would be better under Hertzler. And it's the same. Like, it's literally the same. And I've seen one or two people say, like, oh, well, like, we're missing leaders on the pitch. We're missing Welbeck. We're missing Veltman. We're missing Milner. If we are in a phase of football where we have spent £200 million on footballers, and we are missing, and we are lamenting the loss of Welbeck and Joel Veltman, who fantastic players, don't get me wrong, right? Like, love them. Want them to retire here. Would love them to move into coaching. The day when Joel Veltman is manager, dead. Love it, right? The ultimate shithouse manager you could ever expect, right? Absolutely love the idea.
Diving on the touchline.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he's holding the ball hostage, like throwing it into the crowd, like, love it. But that is shocking. Like, I'm sorry, if we're lamenting those two as like, where are we at?
Don't forget Milner.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, and let's be positive a little bit, right? because Stephen in the chat has brought up someone I really wanted to talk about as well. One, he brought up a thing here saying that you expect every defender to make a mistake, but it almost seems like the back line is not only doing their jobs, but also having to cover Lewis at this point. It must be soul destroying, especially as he's the captain. Fine. He also pointed out that he thought Enciso looked good and enthusiastic.
Yeah, he did.
Can't say enough good things about the impact Enciso made yesterday. I thought he was excellent. Like, he came on and he really grabbed that game by the scruff of its neck for that 15 minutes. I thought he was really good. Like, I thought he did really well. Everything that you would want him to do with the ball, he did. He shot when he should shoot. He passed when he should pass. He looked backwards when he should look backwards, right? Like, I thought he had an excellent game. Like, and to me, knowing what he's been saying on international breaks, I was shocked that we would even see him again. I thought he was fully like out, like Trossard-esque.
Yeah.
But he's not, like, and he played really well. And like, to me, like, that's a performance that's like playing you into the team. Like, I don't know where you fit him. I don't know whether you have Ruta move out right and you put him in the middle. But like, if you're against West Ham on, what is it, Saturday, Sunday, whatever day it is, like, if I'm seeing Minte start and then Ciso is on that bench, I'm fuming.
I can't see. I'm going to be at the West Ham game. If I see Minte there, I'm going to get on the pitch. I'm just going to remove him from it. Enciso was good. He did give the ball away a couple of times towards the end, but he was just trying. He was trying to make something happen. I'll tell you what the difference I saw with Enciso. I think he was humbled a little bit. I think he's been humbled by being dropped from the matchday squad because he seemed more selfless. He seemed more like he wanted to create chances for his team as opposed to just glory at himself. Now he did attempt one long shot, but sure, go for it, mate. We needed to make a miracle happen. But he seemed.
It was also a worldie of a save, by the way, because that was a belting shot.
Yeah, I mean, the keeper was as is tradition, the keeper was fairly good against us. You know what's surprising me about some of the selection at the moment is I'm really surprised that Ayari is still starting. And given the defensive frailties that we're seeing, I just want to see one game where we play Weaver and Belabor together.
We did. It was Fulham. They looked good.
In the 4-2-3-1. You need that solidity when you're looking not great. Ayari's good at creating chances, but I really want to see that more because the more I'm seeing of Weaver, the more you start to see his confidence build and the more quality of a player he looks like, and he will track back and he will put in a challenge. And as good as Belabor's been, he's going to give you one mistake each game to the opposition. He's going to come in and he's going to touch the ball one too many times. That's his classic move, right? He's always taking one touch too many. Sometimes that's amazing because it creates an opportunity. Other times he gets caught in possession. I think he needs a cover man there for him. And Ayari is not that guy. I would love to see a little bit more of that. So the whole, like, the right flank is frustrating for us at the moment, but also centrally, I don't think he knows what his best 11 is yet. And with the injuries, he still doesn't really know. Where does Matt O'Reilly fit in? Is Kadioglu going to be back? Where's he fitting in? Like, there's tons of question marks there. I also don't like João Pedro at number 9 either. You know who he reminds me of at 9? Harry Kane for England. And he just constantly wants to come deep and make something happen. He's such a quality creative player. But then the defense is then just able to just settle back, and you've just got this like grouping of players, and then the ball comes out to Matoma, who for some reason has forgot that he's able to go to the byline now and just cuts in on his right and passes back to Stupinian for 400 times. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just venting at this point. I've got no solutions.
No, it's all good. I'm desperate to see Weaver and Belabor together in a 4-2-3-1 as well. Like, and I think Ayari has been a hell of a breakthrough this year. Like, I think he didn't expect it. We didn't expect it. No one, like, it's been a pleasant surprise, right? But that position that he was asked to play, I don't know whether it's because he's like the more attacking option, but like Belabor's a great attacking option. We've watched him do it. So like, just have him be the guy that marauds forward. He's better at it than most players we've seen, right? Like,
and he can shoot.
Yeah, and he's good at that too. So like, why would we not want that to be the case? Like, to me, I have got to grab the door in a minute because I'm about to get some shopping. It'll be 2 minutes, but I'm going to unmicrophone myself so I can hear you. What would you want that 11 to be against West Ham? I can hear everything you're saying. Promise, and I will respond. What would you want that 11 to be against West Ham? Or what would you
Who's
like to
injured?
see? Whoever is really injured in real life.
Well, is Kadioglu? Where, I want to know Hinshelwood, Veltman, and Kadioglu where they're at.
Well, I think let's go on what they said. Let's go on Premier injuries because they're obviously very good at this. Like they have all
Is
of
it
the
sponsored by Premier
information.
Inn? Just an
No, it's
extension of their
not.
hotel brand.
Webster's definitely out. Welbeck was 50-50. O'Reilly was 50-50. Kadioglu, here you go. Here's what he said. Jack is 40-60. Kadioglu is 20-80. Milner's 10-90. So I would consider Kadioglu, Hinge. The only people I would consider available possibly for this one coming up would be Welbeck and Veltman. Everybody else I would wipe out because it looks like they're not going to be ready in time. And then I'm going to go do this real quick.
All right. Well, that's a shame because I actually think, and I'd be interested in other people's take on this. I think we're really missing Hinshelwood. The flexibility that he gives. I think there's a bunch of positions that he would slot in at immediately right now, and I think he'd give us so much more on that right back position defensively than Tarek Lamptey would. Okay, so I'd play the 4-2-3-1 for the time being. You're obviously having Verbruggen. I'm having Veltman straight back in at right back. As long as he's not on crutches, I want him playing. I'm playing Van Hecker and Igor. I'm dropping Lewis Dunk. And I'm keeping Estupinian in there because, well, there's not really anyone else. I am playing Baleba and Weaver, like we talked about. If Matt O'Reilly was 100%, there's a chance I'm playing Baleba and O'Reilly against West Ham because West Ham are crap. And I think we could probably overwhelm them. And that's where I'd want Matt O'Reilly playing. But if he's not fit, I'm playing Weaver and Baleba, playing Matoma on the left, and trying to see if we can actually get him to create and run down the line a little bit more like he previously was doing and now seems a little bit shy of doing. I'm having João Pedro in the 10 with Welbeck up top. And on the right-hand side, I think I'm playing Ruta at the start on the right, and I'm bringing Gruder on 65 minutes in if he hasn't done anything. And if Ruta is looking great and Pedro's looking crap, I'm moving Ruta into the 10, taking Pedro off and putting Gruder on in place of Pedro.
Okay. Bench, other than Gruder?
Who have I already dropped? Dunk. I've dropped Dunk. I've got Minte and Adingra there. O'Reilly, Moda, Steele. And then
Fergie?
Yeah, but I've got absolutely no desire to play him. No desire to play him. I'm sorry. It's just, I just don't. We just can't. It's just how many times are we going to bring him on and not see anything? And you've either got to just have him get a proper full opportunity. When's the last time we gave him a start? Was it? Who was it against?
Was it Fulham or Leicester?
I think it was Leicester we started with him, right?
I think it was, yeah.
I think
it was, yeah.
You've either got to do that, and we took him off 70 minutes in for Danny Welbeck, right? You've either got to do that and just really hope he does something.
Yeah, 13 touches, by the way. 13.
One shot on target against Leicester.
Yep.
Like, no, like I don't want to. I think it's Welbeck starting at number 9. If you can't play Welbeck I'm playing Pedro as much as I don't want him there because it just opens up the position for someone else to play in behind him. I didn't mention Enciso. I've got Enciso on the bench. I'm not starting him again, but he's a difference maker, and I want to see him come on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I think if Welbeck is available, I think that front four is the obvious front four. It fills itself at this point with the form that they've been on when they've been playing together. I think that front four fills itself. Like the last time that group played together was Bournemouth, I think. And I think that's the one time when I just said that I thought we were actually very good. Even if we didn't play superbly well, like the mentality was superb.
And the interplay that they created between one another was top notch. Like all just superb on the ball. Superb on the ball. We do really miss Danny Welbeck when he doesn't play because he just offers so much more. His one-touch ability, his hold-up play, his ability to open up play for the other players is massive. Like I'm interested in thinking about what the result would have been at Palace if it was Welbeck up top and we had Igor instead of Dunk, and Veltman instead of Lamptey.
I think physically, Mateta is totally nullified by Igor, right? Like, which changes the game in the way that they can hoof that long ball up.
Yeah.
So I think that helps. I think that Igor and Estepinian have a much better understanding of where each other are going to be compared to Dunk and Purvis. So I think that probably helps a little bit. I think that we are still a little bit effed on the right-hand side because there is just such an inherent weakness playing Lamptey and Minte together. They are so lightweight. So I think we'd still have down there anyway. But like I said, I think this is an awful position to be in given the money we've spent, right? Like that we're sat here thinking like, oh, if Igor and Welbeck were fit, like, what do you mean? Why are we in a position where we have to worry about that? Like that squad yesterday was good enough to beat Palace. Absolutely good enough to beat Palace, and we didn't. And a lot of that was due to tactically being outclassed by Glasner. Like, that's not good. Like, that's not good at all.
Well, I went on a Palace podcast before the game, and they made me do a combined 11, which I got skewered for.
Of course.
I had to, classic, right? But I had to include a minimum of 3 of their players. And I didn't really even want to include 3 of their players because I genuinely think when you remove injuries from the equation, I really don't think I'm playing more than 2 of their players in a best 11. I think, well, this is the thing, but they would argue that Lacroix was excellent against us. I think you're playing either Gahey or Lacroix alongside Van Hecker, right? At centre back.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think on current form, maybe you lob Sarr in on the right wing, but I'd still rather play Ruta out there, probably. Outside of that, like, are you playing? Maybe you could say that you'd have Wharton if he's fit alongside Baleba potentially.
No, and I can't.
Eze, is Eze getting in the team?
I can't say that I'd rather have Wharton in there because we don't know what Weaver can do next to Baleba yet.
Right,
and that was our big signing. So like, how can we even begin to think of doing someone like? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
crazy.
But am I wrong there? Are you like? I know you could argue is. On current form, would you have a Mitchell in there? Would you have a Munoz at right back? At the current time, you'd have Munoz at right back, but not when it's all injuries. But
not over Veltman.
No, and I'm not putting Will Hughes in there. I'm not putting Lerma in there. Chalaba's not in there. I don't want Mateta in there. I don't want,
West Ham next, away from home. Fail to get 3 points there, and it's get a draw away from home. Brentford come visiting. Brentford have the worst away record in the league, matched with Southampton. They have played 8 away from home, drawn 1, lost 7. That one draw for Southampton, by the way. Guess who that was against? But so Southampton have lost every other single away game they've played. Without us, it's 0-0-7. 007. They got the draw against us. Brentford, away from home, Yeah, 0 wins, 1 draw away at Everton, and then everything else straight losses. We lose that game on the 27th of December. How bad does it get in the Amex and outside of it on the socials? How bad does this sentiment get if we then go 6 games without a win and we have collected a maximum of 1 more point? So we've collected 3 points out of a possible 18 against Southampton, Fulham, Leicester, Palace, West Ham, and Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, it gets pretty bloody terrible, doesn't it? I don't. The problem is now, because of our form, because of the way we're playing, because of the sides that we've capitulated against, I've got no idea what we are or what to expect. No idea. We could come out and batter West Ham, and we could come out and get absolutely mauled by them. I've got no idea whatsoever what will happen. And I think if anyone says they do have an idea, they're telling porcupines. But on pure principle, West Ham are crap, and the problem that we might have with them is their style of play is not something we really love to play against, which will be Lopetegui's solid football. Don't go crazy, sit back and do that side of things. So we might not really enjoy that.
Fighting for his life as well, by the way.
Yeah, so of course
he just won El Sacico. If he loses to Bournemouth and then us back to back, he's probably gone. So after tonight, he could be on his last legs.
Yeah, but he'll 100% have his saving game against us, won't he? There's no real doubt there. He'll do that. I mean, they've got players to hurt us down the wings in Kudus and Somerville, and then Bowen, depending on where they play him. That's scary to me. If we do anything against them, if we lose against them, it's going to be a real problem. It's going to be a real problem. A lot of question marks.
And you're banned from ever attending another football game.
True. And then Brentford, obviously, like you say, because the problem is, right, after that, 3 days after Brentford, we go away to Villa.
And then Arsenal.
Away to Villa. Villa are in a horrible place right now, form-wise. They've completely fallen off. But at home, they're strong. They haven't lost at home for... Have they lost at home? They've lost at home once all season.
Yeah.
And we know what happened with them, last season when we went there?
Yep.
Got our arses handed to us on a platter.
It was Arsenal they lost to at home, by the way.
Right. So, yeah, and then we play Arsenal at home again, who form-wise are not looking too good, but invariably... Yeah, the problem is, right, now you look at any club, you look at any game that we could possibly have, and you don't know how to even frame it. After that, you get the January break, right? And you go Ipswich away. Did you get anything from that? Couldn't beat him at home. Can we beat him away? You get Man United away. We beat them before. Are they better under Amorim now? Are we going to get lucky again? I just don't know at this point. But I think what we have to see from Hertzler is we have to see a mentality shift. We have to see the players looking like something is happening. And I want to see, in that second half against Palace for the first 15, 20 minutes, the mentality that they came out with. We have to see that for prolonged periods of the game, not just when they get shouted at halftime for being shit. We can't come out looking insipid and tired and just... I feel like we almost let the games happen to us at the start of games. We don't try and impose ourselves on the game. We just let the game happen. And then the players are like, how do we get ourselves out of this situation? No, I just like, please just impose yourself on the game and dictate the game, because that's how then this team works. Because then you get to retain the possession, and then you get to do your fun stuff, and then your defense isn't fucking pushed up 400 miles up the pitch, and then you get counted on because you're desperately trying to then come back into a game. Like, we were never getting back in that game, and they cannot switch off. When people are saying, how can you call for Hertzler's head after just these string of results? It's not just the string of results. It's the string of results against the teams you're playing against and where they're at and their quality right now and their form right now. And it's the manner of the games, the manner of the defeats or draws that you've had. What happened with Wolves, what happened with Leicester is absolutely unacceptable. That is completely the sign of a manager that doesn't know how to instill discipline into his team towards the end of games. That is on him. That is absolutely on him. And that's twice. You cannot do that twice. I want to see him given a really good chance to make something happen with this group of players. Even if this season becomes a write-off and we end up in 12th, so be it. If we're showing like signs of positivity, a really clear idea of how we play, and players really doing what we want to see from them, like we've seen with Belaber, like we've seen with Welbeck, but as a group, then great. Keep going. But if it's these 4 games on repeat for much longer, they have to be having the conversations. They have to be.
Yeah, that's all I like. I just want to understand our identity. That's all I want. And it's basically a short way of saying exactly what you've just said. Like, I'm happy to sit here and watch it over the rest of the season if I can start discerning what our identity is. And right now I don't. Like I said to you, I thought we're a badly coached team from top to bottom. We can't defend set pieces. We can't score from them. We can't defend well. We can't attack well. We're not exposing the wing play. We're not exposing the middle. Like, we don't know what our best 11 is. We're rotating people around. Spent £200 million, about freaking 100 million of that on right wingers, and we're playing a left back there. What are we doing? Foxy in the chat saying Diego Gomez is a sensational signing. Where's he going to play?
Yeah, where's he going to fit? We can't even play O'Reilly.
We can't play O'Reilly. We can't play Gruder. Like, we're playing players that are like quite clearly not performing, and we are playing them instead. Like, I mean, there has to be a really shitty conversation if it carries on at some point. It's like, when are we going to rotate Mitoma out?
Oh, well, I was going to say, I want to. If he's not doing the goods 70 minutes into the game against West Ham, you bring a Dinger on and play a Dinger on left wing where he actually wants to play.
I agree. God love him. But he's fell off this season. 3 goals, 2 assists. Like, that is not in December. Like, that's not what we're used to with Mitoma.
His ceiling is so high, but his floor seems so low in some games where you're just like, you know exactly what's going to happen. And we can see it. The defenders can see it. The Diego Gomez one is weird. We have to bring up traditionally Football Manager at least once per podcast. But you know what he really feels like? It feels like one of those players that you sign because he's going to be like a free or low cost because you're getting him at the end of a contract or whatever. And you do it for the next transfer window. And then you sort of forgot you did it. And you're like, oh, shit, I don't really need him anymore, actually. That's what this signing feels like a little bit to me. Like, where's he going to go?
I mean, yeah, I actually haven't got a clue, to be honest. I don't know where he goes. Like, we're just overloaded in so many areas. I don't. And ironically, like, the area we need more in is the one we're not spending money in. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. But then, like, I sit there and I think, like, is one centre half with a bit of pace going to actually cover all the shit that we've got going on at the back? Like, no, it's not.
No.
There's so many problems with that team and the way it is being coached defensively. And I don't say this to shit on Hertzler, because this has been, like I said, this has been a problem since De Zerbi walked through the door, right? Like, we have been terrible, like, for the entire calendar year, like, in all of the departments we're talking about now. But, like, we seem to be adding extra layers of disorganization.
Yeah.
We're not I said to you guys that I thought by the end of that third international break, we'll start getting a sense of what a Hurtsler side is. I have more questions now than I did against Everton.
Yeah, agree.
Because I'm seeing regression in lots of places that I don't understand why we're regressing in, and I'm not seeing progress in just about anywhere.
Yeah, it's almost like they've defaulted back to what they knew before.
Yeah, it's almost like we never evolved from that, actually. Because I just don't see anything and I've said a few people on social saying it's really clear what Hurtsler's style is. It's a high line and attacking via the wing. But if that's the case, that's summing up his tactics. That's what he was doing, where he just exposed the wing play as much as possible and played a high line. And he was shocking. That's just not accurate. It's just not what we're doing anyways. But because we've just talked about how quiet Mitoma has been, we've talked about how poor Minte's been. That's not how Hertz is setting them up to play at all, because we're going through the middle as much as we're going around the wings. I feel like people are trying to see things that aren't there, to try and make sense of things that don't make sense right now.
Yeah, it is confusing, and I think that if we do want to sort of tail in this with a bit more of a positive, if we didn't do the stupid shit we did against Wolves and Leicester, we gained 4 points, we're fourth.
But if you're a team that has spent £200 million in the summer, hired an innovative, progressive young manager, and undoubtedly have European ambitions this season due to the amount of money that's been spent, isn't that a huge problem? That we should be fourth, but we're ninth and looking down, not fourth and daring to dream.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and which is why we're having these conversations. The point is, though, right? If a couple of decent results, you can completely change the perspective of this team. Now, conversely, a couple more crap results, and suddenly you're sat around 12th and 13th, and everyone's got the pitchforks out. He's almost in some ways there, because think about our preseason predictions. Didn't we all predict somewhere between 8th and 12th for us?
I was called a negative Nancy for saying 13th, but yes, I think most of us were. I think you guys were between 8th and 12th, and then I said 13th. And
right.
And Robin got angry at me, and Robin is fully Fabian Hurtsler out. Let's not let him. Let's not let him.
Don't let him get away
with
it. He's FH out.
For the listeners, you can get on to him next week. He is fully Hurtsler out. By the way, we are not. He's
sending flowers to Zerbi in Marseille right now. He still keeps in touch.
And I think that's also a point of positivity, right? We've done a lot of complaining in the last hour, but I am not Hurtsler out right now. Just like I said at the start of the podcast, and you aren't either. I am. Who are you, Fabian Hurtsler? And please start showing us soon, because what we're seeing isn't good enough. So I just want to know what you are, because this isn't anything. You don't stand for anything right now. Your team doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah, and you look at a weird side like Spurs, and you immediately, though, even though their fan base is completely at odds with one another, and they're in this bizarre position of having a plus 17 goal difference in 10. What is that? But at least you very much know what he's trying to do with that team. And sometimes they execute on it and sometimes they don't. And I think having that distinction will be important for this fan base, because it's all about setting expectations. What are your expectations? And that's why I was just getting at what our preseason thoughts were, because our expectations were quite low. The problem is he came in, we got some results, we spent a lot of money, and suddenly everyone's expectations shift. Oh, well, this side is capable now of finishing in European places. We've also benefited from the fact that you've had a lot of sides that you would otherwise think would be up there have fallen away early doors.
Yep.
I mean, look at your West Ham. West Ham were the summer transfer darlings.
They'd won the summer transfer title, hadn't
they? They got the trophy. Newcastle were all over the place. Like, no,
And they were expected to romp top four because they had no Champions League or Europe this year, and other teams like Villa did. They were expected to maul it.
Like, there's no one. I don't think no one predicted Forest. No one predicted Forest. No one predicted the City drop off.
All the Newcastle fans, and we're going to have to wrap here shortly because otherwise my wife's going to stab me in the face. All the Newcastle fans that are on the how out train, all of them, because we've been on a couple of podcasts of theirs, and we see a lot. I see a lot of their social media because we interact with quite a lot of their pods. Every single one of them that are on the how out train today were on the how has lost his identity a month ago. Like, that's where I'm concerned. Like, they don't know what Eddie Howe is anymore or what he stands for. And that's where my concerns are big time. Like, I don't no one knows, and still no one knows, right? And it was exposed massively at St. James's Park when we beat them. Like, that was not the Eddie Howe of old. That's Eddie Howe who seems to be all out of ideas and doesn't really know what he's wanting to get out of this team.
You know what's quite funny about their problems is that they had an injury to their number 9, who was out for a while. They don't have a proper right wing solution because Jacob Murphy, despite his performance at the weekend, is absolute crap in my opinion. They were getting performance out of left wing in someone like a Gordon or a Barnes, but typically not an end product, especially from a Gordon. And they had central defensive issues because what's his face has been injured for so long, Sven Botman. So they've been playing the centre back pairing they're not happy with. Ring any bells? Like, it's a similar type of situation. So you sort of wonder whether we can, make some improvements. But you're right. There are some parallels there with them. We have to, when you're looking up at Fulham, Bournemouth, and Forest, though, you've got to hope that this comes good a little bit. The problem is, are we going to maintain this mentality of being able to beat sides that are traditionally in the top 6 and get points where we shouldn't otherwise get points? Because if we stop doing that and still do these stupid performances against relegation fodder, that's where we start to do a little bit of a tumble, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More snakes than ladders.
Yep. All right. We'll be back next weekend to talk West Ham. And then the Christmas fixtures will come in, and God knows when we'll be on. We'll be on, so here or there and everywhere, really. But yeah, have a great rest of your week as much as you can, and we'll be back next weekend.
Cheers all. Chin up.